Take 10, where we hope to inspire, encourage, and motivate your leadership. I am Jasmine Bullard, and today we want to share part 2 of a recent interview Cam did with retiring YMCA CEO Larry Richardson. Larry provides great inspiration to listeners, and I know you will enjoy. Here is part 2 of their discussion.
What people expect from us has changed. I think that's been different. The leadership in communities have changed. I don't know about your community, but here, we had these pillars of manufacturing and other industries that were very, very wealthy individuals, and were super benevolent. And now they have passed away, and they have set up foundations. And so the major contributions being made in our community from a philanthropic standpoint, a lot of times are through these foundations. Some of our companies have moved out at places. They moved to different places. We had a Fortune 500 company called Dent Supply that moved to Charlotte. Some of our major banks have merged and moved to other places. So in terms of the integration of how we're doing philanthropy has definitely changed. And then the other thing I think is big, just to focus on three, is the people we're hiring. They're a lot different than when you and I probably started, or even some of our people are in their 50s or 40s. They're going to be, how many hours am I going to work? How soon can I move up the chain of leadership, and I'm not working 1 hour over 40 hours, and and that's okay. It's just different. I'm not used to it, and that's one of the things I think I have to resign myself. That's just not going to change. I don't know many CEOs that don't work 50 hours minimum a week, if not more. It's not because we're workaholics. That's what's required of the job. And I sometimes I don't see that in my own kids, even. That's to say, my own kids. And so that generation, the work ethic has changed, and I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just there's a different set of expectations, I think. So, and I think that's going to be a challenge. And there's less people, right? Yeah. So there's 20% less accountants out there. There's less people coming in. There's more baby boomers than there are people that are in their 20s that are coming out of school that want to be wide. So I really am concerned about the leadership of the YMCA in the future, in terms of, we got a lot of great young people. Do we have enough is the question.
Yeah, I feel like it's harder today. In fact, I started as a program director, and I say all the time, I loved being a program director, but it is 10 times harder today to be a program director than it was for me to be a program director. I mean, I was basically hired to play with the kids, have fun. Yeah. I mean, and I didn't think, again, I just get on the bus, throw them in the pool, have a good time.
Yeah.
And it's things that I would cringe if my staff did today.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Because it's much harder.
You want to be careful too what you tell people you did a year, 30 years ago.
Mo Bell, who's retired in South Carolina, when I talked to him, he shared that they did a field trip to RJR Tobacco Company, and they would send home, as a camp director, and they would send home little cans of Skull or tobacco with the kids to give to their parents.
Well, you're in the South there.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So what advice would you give to those young people that work for you, or the young people that are listening early in their Y careers? What career advice would you give them right now?
I think mostly, listen to your inner calling, if you can tap into that.
Yeah.
I think I think a big thing the last few years for me, and I've tried to instill in our staff, is, are you self-aware of who you are? Your strengths and your weaknesses. What drives you? What brings you to work? The WHY behind why do you work at the YMCA? I think all that I think it's critical to identify those and then lean into that, and understand that not everything we do at the YMCA is going to be embraced by everybody we have, right? So I think that being true to yourself and really being self-aware, I think is so critical, because I think sometimes we try to, and I probably did this too, I'm sure. I hope I've done that, but we put on masks that that we try to be other things that we think or perceive that how people want us to be, and certainly we want to continue to generate or continue to reform into better and better people at a time of, regardless of what our worldview is and what our aspirations are. I mean, hopefully, as I continue to age, and I want to be more like Christ, right? I'm never going to get there, but that's what I want to be, and that's what I want to do. Am I doing that? But I have to be self-aware exactly where I am, where my strengths and weaknesses are. So I think that's a critical piece, and understand what's moving them. Because if this work is not for you, then that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
Then let us find a way for you to exit. And because we really want to find, um, I like to find those, 10, 20, 30-year tenured people that really come in. And I think that's how the movement grows and it's strengthened. Because I think probably for you, most of the men and women I know that have retired in the last, decade are always 30, 40-year people. They just, we call it around here, they've had a drink of the YMCA Kool-Aid, and they're in, because many of us can take the skill sets we have and make more money, or have
Yeah.
aspired have bigger cars or whatever, or bigger homes in other careers than this career.
Yeah, that's great. I'm gonna revert back. I'm sitting here thinking about your career and your leadership and thinking how things have changed. So you're an ex-football coach.
That's correct. X, yeah.
So how has your leadership changed and how you led the Y in those staff and those early years to how you're leading staff and people today?
Well, I think the thing is, I've become more self-aware, but I will tell you that, in fact, I have one thing hanging up on my wall is one of the things when I got out of coaching, I always loved people to call me coach. Everybody called me coach. I still get a call from kids I coached in high school and college and call up and call me coach. And so and I think CEO of a YMCA is like a head coach. You
100%.
you have your staff around you, like your assistant coaches staff, however many you have. And I have 6 people on my senior team. That's my assistants, and I have 2 vice presidents, my coordinator, my offensive defense coordinator, and then all the rest of the people are kind of our players, and then what we're having an impact and how we're impacting people. So the only difference is I'm not getting ready in like a college, getting ready to play on Saturday, or high school, getting to play Friday night. Difference about this job, it's a little bit, it wears you down more because you got to play every day. There's not a day. I mean, how about you? We don't shut down. We're going every day, and we're 365 because we run homelessness shelters. We run a homeless men's shelter for 120. We have people all 24/7 at 365 days a year. So we're never shut down. So I think that is one of the things that can wear you out. But I think, the self-awareness led me into really becoming, I think, defining what is it I want to instill in my people. I want them to trust me. I want to be authentic to them. And that's really, so, either way, right? The strengths, and even when I may make some mistakes, if I say something cross to somebody, or I may lose my temper over something or whatever, I got to make sure, again, the authenticity part of me is like, I got to recognize that was not, and I got to go back and apologize. So I got to be willing to be, give grace, and I got to be willing to accept grace. I think those are some of the things. And the other thing is to be present. And I think part of that is probably strongly linked to authenticity, but I think those are the key things for me. And I thought a lot about them because I do some leadership development for the local leadership York group here, and I refined that over the years. But I look back, and I've been doing this for 15 years for this group, and the last 5 years I stayed on those 5 kind of key principles: authenticity, empathy, self-awareness, trust, being present, and hopefully I'm living that out on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. Did you grab a face mask in your day?
Oh, more than, yeah. I was not I was, I played linebacker in high school and in college. Yeah. I was, yeah. No, I grabbed whatever I could grab. There was no such thing as fair play.
Yeah. But I love the coaching. I mean, I agree 100%. I come from the coaching ranks too, and sports. I love it. And so, and I watch these coaches still today that are screamers and yellers, and they still get it from their players, and men's and women's side.
Yeah.
But I've seen some of those coaches soften a little bit at the end of their careers too.
Yeah.
That they've evolved the way the kids have evolved a little bit.
I think to your point, it's fascinating to watch. I think some of the best leaders are coaches, and some of the poorest leaders are coaches,
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm a diehard Steelers fan, so I just hang on everything Mike Tomlin says, because I think that he's done an outstanding job of building men, which is really, it's well winning in the NFL, but this is relationships with other men is great. Or I've been watching lately. I've been watching the Saban special, and just watching his leadership, and but there's leaders at small colleges and high schools, and I just I love sports, but I love to watch the interdynamics between coaches and kids relationships. And my kids all play sports, and for me growing up, when you going back to mentorship, some of the from junior high all the way through, some of the people I idolized the most and looked up to the most were people who were coaching me, so
Yeah.
haven't been able to shed that whole relationship piece yet.
So we'll get you out of here on this. So what's your hope for the movement, for the Y movement in the future?
Yeah. Well, it's probably a theme of our conversation. I just really am hopeful that the Y doesn't lose its way. I think the Christian mission of the Y, while it's different in 2025 than it was in 1925 and it was in 1875, and that's okay. I just hope that we don't lose our way and our mission becomes watered down to be more attractive to the culture. I think we stand out because we're different in our Christian mission and how we treat people, all people. I think we need to stay on the apolitical side of all the ramification, all the discourse that's happening in our country, and be the place that's a safe place where people can express their ideas and be who they are, and still be loved by everybody, and we don't have to make those judgments. So I think that's really what defines us, and so I hope that doesn't get watered down. And I probably felt it was really going in the wrong direction maybe 10 years ago, but I sense there's I don't know if you want to call it a mini revival going on. I really believe that. I see that we're part of a group, and you might be part of that group too, of Christian emphasis YMCAs that have that piece. And but then I've been in some Ys in the last 60 days that I'm actually mentoring a young program director as part of the Leadership Academy here in the state of Pennsylvania, another Y, and he's Christian, trying to figure out how to work out his faith and in a respectful way in his why. And he's been kind of told pretty much not to do that, and I think that's sad. So because if we really take a look at who Christ was, he loved everybody and he was with everybody, and he didn't expel anybody from his presence. And again, I don't think we need to be the days of Moody, but I do think that we can express how we care for people by keeping that mission first and foremost. And the interesting thing, and this and I know this, we all sign off on that national mission statement every year. It's very clear. So I don't know how these wise studies, you can't do that here. What do you mean? It's right in the national mission statement, and it's in our articles of incorporation, probably in yours too. Yeah. So, and we all sign off on that, and I'm like, people, let's read the stuff we're signing here. So
yeah, I think we got to draw closer to it, and I think that's for another debate and another day. I love hearing you talk. And one of my peers gave me a note a few years ago just on this topic, and he said, "Love people so much they ask you why."
Right.
And so, I think that we got to live that every day. Well, Larry, just really proud of you and thankful for our relationship. And you're a man of faith. Just love hearing your story, and you've had a big impact not only on your Y, but the Ys in Pennsylvania, the Northeast, and you've had an impact on the movement. And I hope you know that, and I hope you're proud of that work that you're done. And so, everybody that's watching this today, I hope you share it with your team and talk about your calling. Talk about how you can find that. Talk about how we can have prayer for YMCAs and work, and reach out to Larry at the YMCA of the Roses, and let's thank him before July 31st.
31st, yeah.
Yeah.
The words are very kind. I'm very grateful, but I'd be remiss if I didn't thank you for these leadership talks that you've been doing. I've been following them all along. Everybody get on, and I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot from the people you've had on, and for you to take this on, in addition to you being a CEO, this says, maybe you got a career. You're already setting up your second career.
Yeah, I'm learning. This is about me learning. Larry, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks,
all right.
Thank you.
Take care. See you soon.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to part 2 of Cam's discussion with Larry Richardson. Stay tuned for our next video. I am Jasmine Bullard, and remember to always lead with love.